Session 2, Amplifying Asia-Pacific Voices. In recent years, the Asia-Pacific region has emerged as the world's center of change and innovation. The media industry here has also seen a dramatic transformation. Thanks to the digital revolution, the echo of global voices has never been louder. In the Media 3.0 era, there are untold opportunities to reach audiences around the world, to engage news consumers like never before, and present an Asia-Pacific perspective on important world events. The region's major broadcasters have offered international services for decades. But now is the time to innovate. What strategies are being adopted by broadcasters today to take on the challenges of tomorrow? How do we overcome barriers of culture and language? How can Asia-Pacific media organizations develop news values so once we capture the ears of global consumers, they keep listening? Session 2, Amplifying Asia-Pacific Voices.
Good afternoon, esteemed journalists and guests, friends and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. 안녕하십니까? I hope my pronunciation was correct. And thank you very much, KBS, for creating this wonderful opportunity to share and learn. I confess that during the first session, I felt like a pedestrian looking at a jet flying across the sky. It was so dizzying to me. I feel like the most analog person in the room. I have a notebook inside this hidden, and I'm just using my pen notes to speak. Just allow me to introduce myself again. I am chief editor of NHK World. I would like to first show pre-3.0 perhaps contribution to the web. NHK World is a program I head. It is a 24-hour English news broadcast online and TV around the world to 260 million households and over 140 countries and regions it's available to. And with this web streaming, it is available to everyone who has access to online around the world. It is the English channel of NHK, which is the public broadcaster in Japan, funded by viewers. We have viewers receiving fee that supports us and ensure editorial independence. We have this web streaming, and we have our website, and this is our main contribution to the web. We have a Newsline feature page, which I would like to show you a little later on. But I would like to first talk about what was discussed before this wonderful age of digital age. I do think there is so much opportunity, but it could also be a blessing and a curse. I often see international media running the same stories at the top of the hour, live sometimes, and also the top 3, top 4 news stories could be the same. I, as a news editor for an international media, feel the need to run with it, competing for the attention of the world viewers. It's a constant battle of speed versus accuracy, as was discussed before, breaking news versus time-consuming in-depth reporting, and global versus local. And as an Asia-Pacific broadcaster or Japanese broadcaster, I feel I need to curb the urge to run with it too much. I think the challenge for us is to find the local in the global news, but also make the local global. And that is, I think, the key to the theme of our session, Amplifying Asian Pacific Voices. Now, so how do we do that? I'm afraid I don't have the real answer to it. If I had the secret, maybe you'll be paying to see me, or there will be other venues I'll be speaking with. But this is my first speech about this, so bear with me. What I would like to share with you is what NHK is doing. And it's basically maybe against the flow of the 3.0 era, but we are doing the basics, and I think back to the basics is what we are trying to do. Because trust for us is the most important thing, trust from our viewers. And what NHK is doing is on the ground, factual reporting on what's happening in Japan and the rest of Asia, because that is where our strength lies. We have 1,500 journalists and cameramen across Japan in 54 stations and 30 bureaus around the world, half of which is in Asia. And for example, we are a country with many, many natural disasters, so NHK places great importance, emphasis on covering natural disasters, and disaster mitigation. We are continuing to cover on the ground in Fukushima and the surrounding northeast area after the March 11th, 2011 great earthquake and tsunami. And Fukushima, many of you, I think, have been reporting and looking at it. Fukushima nuclear power plant, the crippled power plant, is one issue that we have been focusing on. On our website and on our news, we are trying to bring to you what's happening at the plant. If you could look at the screen, this is our website. We are trying to explain with graphics what is happening. And also, we are trying to share experience going back to the area. We have 100 journalists and staff working in Fukushima, and we cover the post 3.11 in stories. One example I would like to show you is a recent story our correspondent in the NHK World have done. And it is about infant, how it is difficult to have checkups for the infant for radiation exposure. Would you kindly put up the volume?
To test their radiation levels free of charge. But many parents are worried that their infants haven't been able to undergo the checks. NHK World's Mitsuko Nishikawa has the story.
Kuniko Usui lives in Fukushima with her 2-year-old daughter, Momoka. The two of them spent a lot of time outdoors shortly after the nuclear crisis began. They had to wait in line to buy food and baby supplies. Kuniko is concerned that her daughter was exposed to high levels of radiation in the air, and she's worried about contamination from tainted food and water since then.
Whenever my child gets sick, I immediately worry that it's the effects of radiation.
Many parents in Fukushima are in the same situation. They're desperate to have their children checked for radiation exposure. but hospital officials say they lack the resources to carry out the tests.
We looked for the right equipment, but there's nothing anywhere in the world that can accurately test small children.
Doctors have been conducting radiation checks on adults using a device called a whole body counter. The machine is like a small room that contains radiation detectors. But infants are too small to use them. Scientists and industrial designers in Tokyo are trying to solve the problem. They've been working on a project to design a radiation tester for infants and small children. Professor Ryugo Hayano of the University
Thank you. It was a
of
little
Tokyo.
long clip, but I wanted to show what we continue to do to share the experience from what happened 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. It's going to be 30 months next Wednesday. We also put emphasis on what's in natural disasters that had happened in other countries. And we have covered, try not to forget what has happened in Indonesia from the tsunami, earthquakes in China, and the different experience from these countries. For example, we have brought a story about an island in Indonesia, Aceh, where generations has passed on the tsunami experience by songs. So these are the things we try to bring to our audience and to the world audience, and whether we can make that matter to the audience, the global audience, is a question we will always continue to ask. I think by bringing personal stories, we can make it personal, individual, come home to each individual audience across the world. But also, I think we can perhaps help each other, the Asia-Pacific broadcasters, in making it, reframing it sometimes, putting into context why these issues relate to each of us, why these issues matter to each other. And I hope, because there are so many common issues apart from radiation exposure, nuclear power, that affects us, that unite us and divide us, I hope that we will be able to share ideas how to make the story accessible to wider audience, make it more relevant to wider audience. We cannot afford to ignore what's happening in other parts of the world. We cannot afford to just focus on the biggest stories, the global stories. So I hope I hope that we can compete for the diversity of the news in the international media, not the sole attention of the audience. And I hope that by diversifying the news, that we could create more understanding and reduce prejudice, misunderstanding, fear of the unknown, and create a space for mutual trust and dialogue. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
감사합니다.
Good afternoon, my dear colleagues and friends. My name is Linhua from International News Desk of CCTV. I'm honored to stand here as the second women journalist to speak this afternoon. If you look at our panelists this afternoon, we have 4 women. If that's innovation of journalism today, in addition to Web 3.0. I think that most of you have noticed that one of the top stories of today is about the U.S. Congress. The Foreign Relations Committee passed a resolution to wage a limited war on Syria. It seems that without boots on the ground this time, the U.S. does not need to worry about its exit strategy like Iraq or Afghanistan. But I'm wondering that if the U.S. has any exit strategy for Syrian people. Because several months ago, I went to Iraq to cover the 10th anniversary of the Iraq War. The situation there is not very good. Though the war has passed 10 years, people are free to elect, but there are rampant corruption among those elected officials. And also, a lot of people, almost every day, people lost their loved ones. A lot of checkpoints, explosions. So I remember that the former anchor of CBS, Dan Rather, once said that if we had a thorough coverage about Iraq, we may not go to war. He thought that after several years, he thought that Iraq war is a mistake. So I think that it's really important for us to bring a full picture of the every country for us to make a right decision. I was just told by my colleagues in Iraq that CNN has just closed its Baghdad bureau in May, 1 month after the 10th anniversary of the war. So without people on the ground, although we have a social media, social network, I think it's still a loss for journalism. So for us, I think that every media every media organization has its own focus, has its own agenda, because we have different targeted audiences. So we are different from other big news organizations. While other news organizations pulled people out of overseas bureaus to cut down overseas journalists, I think that we as Asian media, because Asia now is the most vibrated region in the world, we should do a better job than we did in the past several years. For CCTV, actually we are expanding. We will try to report, be the first to report on news in China, and we try to speed up. That's 2008 for Wenchuan earthquake. It took us 18 hours to get the first footage. And earlier this year in Yang earthquake, it took us 2 hours, although it's still far behind NHK on earthquake coverage, but it's better for us now. We now have 31 bureaus in mainland China and 71 bureaus across the world. Among those, we have 26 in Asia, based in Asia. We have reporters in Syria, Libya, and also Japan for the tsunami. And for the Korean Peninsula issue, we have a reporter in Seoul, and we also have a reporter in Pyongyang so that we can provide a balanced report. We also have freelancers across the world. So we try to send people to the ground. We have 2 regional production centers, one in Washington, D.C., USA, another one in Nairobi, Kenya. And we work with local well-known hosts and editorial staff to report local news. Earlier this year, we did a live coverage about the animal migration in East Africa, and it attracted a lot of audience both at home and abroad. Now, CCTV has 6 international channels in 6 international languages, including Chinese, English, Russian, Arabic, Spanish, and French. We also had a branch called CCTV Plus, which provides CCTV news content, raw materials to international media organizations. For the first half of 2013, according to the watermark, there are about 15,000 times being used every day. And technological innovation expected at the end of this year when we move into the new headquarters. And also at that time, we are going to be HD, and also I think we will use more social network. Having said that, I think we still have a lot of challenges. Just like other media partners, we face a challenge from digital media, the decrease of entertainment, advertisement. And also, you can look at the picture that I showed just now. We have a lot of young journalists, a lack of experiences, and also the brand building is not good enough. And among all those other things, I think one of the unique things about CCTV maybe is the ideological barrier. Although maybe for those of you that have more often been to Beijing, you may not find that China is that different from other countries. But I think one reason for us to learn more about each other is that we are different. Especially in Asia, we have different cultures. And for now, CCTV, for those two regional centers, we have more than 120 employees from Africa and America. I think that they joined CCTV to pursue their career. They have their reason to join CCTV. I would like to quote one of them. He said that, one of my colleagues in Africa, he said that in the past, media from other parts of the world always cover about war, hunger, conflict, disease in Africa. He said that that's true, that's part of the truth, but we still need a solution to that. So he said that that's a reason for him to join CCTV to provide a full picture of his home country and Africa. I think that what CCTV trying to do to bring a more full picture from Asian perspective, from Chinese perspective, and we're going to work our friends and partners in other Asian countries to do a better job to amplify Asian voices. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen and distinguished participants of this Global Youth Forum, good afternoon. I am the head of KBS, Department of KBS World, and it is an honor for me to speak about KBS World and its goals for the next 10 years at this special youth forum. Is there any remote here? Okay. KBS World is celebrating its 10th year anniversary this year. So I am very pleased to share with you our experiences, TV programming, and channel competence, and social network services marketing strategies, and goals for the next 10 years. KBS World TV was established July 1st, 2003. Thank you. With a purpose to create a media network for Koreans abroad, as well as to foster mutual understanding and to promote global friendship and cultural exchange. Within relatively 10 short years, KBS World has grown at a fast pace. KBS World is available in 88 countries for 42 million households. Over 230 million people can watch KBS World. KBS World programming is categorized into 4 parts. news content, drama, entertainment, and documentaries. Let's watch the KBS World program for a moment.
아이들에게 미래를 선물해주고 싶습니다.
Watch this stunning story that has never been told before.
Four news programs are airing live, and KBS World News Today in English is airing 3 times a day for 30 minutes. Except for KBS World News Today, the rest of 3 news programs are aired in real time in Korea around the world. In other words, KBS World's news program is aired for Korean viewers living outside of the country. KBS dramas are full of warm-hearted stories and interesting plots. Not only recent drama Good Doctors, Iris, but also all-time favorite drama Boys of Flowers, Dream High, have been very popular. And entertainment programs is widely enjoyed by younger people across the world. Music Bank, Gag Concert, 2 Days and One Night is our favorite shows. With the higher quality KBS documentary, KBS World viewer can have access to the variety of informations and experiences in terms of life, food, culture, environment, and more. Let's look at the pie graph. It shows the breakdown of our current programming. Dramas take up 49%, entertainment 25%. Drama and entertainment programs are the majority of our KBS World programs. I captured the scene from some of our programs. We provide subtitles in 6 languages. What you see here are the subtitles in English, Japanese, Chinese, and Malay. Our goal is to increase the number of programs and languages which more subtitles are provided. And these are the CI of our global partners. KBS World is available in 88 nations as a basic package through global partners such as Time Warner in America, JCOM in Japan, Astro in Malaysia, StarHub in Singapore, and so on. People can watch KBS World through a basic package with minimum cost. So more viewers can have access to KBS World contents with basic package. I can proudly say that KBS World has become one of the major international broadcasters in Asian region. As you can see right at the top right at the corner, KBS World was sometimes number 1 or number 3 in ranking from JCOM of Japan. KBS World was distinguished channel in Southeast Asia. KBS is more popular channel than any other international channel in Southeast Asia. I have another reference here. In March of this year, KBS World conducted an online survey using its social network services, and more than 4,000 people from 100 countries participated. We asked, how often do you watch KBS World? And 67% of the participants said that they watch KBS World every day. Isn't it surprising? And why do people watch KBS World? And 48% of the people said that to have fun. And while 25% said to see K-pop stars. And it also seems that KBS World makes a positive influence on Korea's image. 69% of the participants say that their impression to Korea became positive after watching KBS World. And KBS World has the most social media followers in broadcast and or media platforms in South Korea. A total of 2 million people subscribe to KBS World content. So online social media platforms are international marketing tools for KBS World. We receive real-time feedback from the viewers around the world. We open online events and promotion through the social media. Finally, I'll talk about the growth plan for the next 10 years. First, we are focusing on launching multiple channels. One is for Koreans abroad, and the other is for foreigners in general. The target audience for each channel would be different, depending on cultural background and languages. Second, we'd like to expand the channel footprint. We are always open to any kinds of new media platform, such as YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and so on. We believe that interaction with the viewers and the content provider is very, very important than ever. Today, we have looked at the trends, challenges, and opportunities of the global broadcasting. I believe that now is time for strategic alliance for global broadcasters. We at KBS will continue share the experiences and initiatives with this Global Youth Forum participants here. Thank you very much for your understanding and listening to my presentation. Thank you.
Yes, it's working. I think we had a video. The video was supposed to be in the beginning.
Many in Tel Aviv believe that their government is actually intensifying the Syrian civil war.
Sometimes. But as our chief found out, these self-titled Muslim patrols are still in operation.
Obama refused to prosecute any of the Bush cabinet for their criminality.
Occupying Wall Street protesters fear the center of the Syrian capital where thousands of
They believe Washington. They believe Obama. I'm Julian Assange. Global totalitarian.
Acrobatics to justify its inaction on Guantanamo.
Well, that's how my presentation is called. And I'm going to explain this number at the end, but that's a magic number. You have to remember it. And of course, there's a strong Russian tone, overtone to this presentation, because some people say I look like Lenin. And then, of course, Jawad looks a lot like Putin. So we have a lot in common. With the growing communication around the world, the popular cliche is that the world has become smaller. Well, I do not agree with that, as well as I'm sorry I will have to disagree with some of the previous speakers. And I specifically disagree with this one. The world has become bigger, in my idea. The world has become bigger because people who didn't get our attention and who didn't have the voice have their voice now. And it's very important to understand. The world has become bigger, and especially Asia, of course, because Asia houses the majority of the Earth's population. I will try to give you a few ideas using RT, the channel I'm a managing editor of, as an example. Doesn't mean we are doing things right. It doesn't mean we're doing things perfect, very far from that. I will just try to use our example by showing you what can you do to survive in this world. As Deborah rightly said, Russia is both a European and an Asian country. In fact, 2/3 of Russia is in Asia, which is quite a unique position, of course. Now, where's the... Oh, yeah, it's here. Well, as you all remember, or at least those who have been in this job for long enough, the popular notion was, we are selling news. That's what I was telling my students, and I'm also a professor at the Moscow Sholokhov University. Let's make it plain. We're in the business of selling news. Well, that's not true anymore. If we think we're selling news, we are dead on delivery. Because so many news outlets, first of all, the social networks and the bloggers, they pretend they're selling news, they're selling information. That if you're talking about just information, you lose the competition, by definition. I think there are two things that we're trying to sell. We're trying to sell trust, which was mentioned before, and quality. I would even say quality is number one, which is why we've gone HD, had to spend a fortune on that, and many of you have gone HD. It's not just because HD is better than SD. It's because that separates us from this competition, sometimes an unfair competition, I would say. Yes, quality and trust go together. They're interconnected because you get more trust by proving that you have better quality, both technically and in terms of the quality of your reporting, which is why it's so important when you become a winner of some international event. But the concept itself is of utmost importance. We are not selling information. It's like when you ask a tailor, and they have been perfecting this art for centuries, what do you sell? Do you sell a shirt? Do you sell a dress? He would say, no, I'm selling a dream. I'm selling a dream to this girl that when she puts on this dress, she will look like a model. That's there's a lot of wisdom in that. We are not selling information. We're not selling news. We're selling quality and trust. Since the world, as I've said, has become bigger, not smaller, just having one truth is not enough. There are many truths, and I'm not talking about lies. I'm not talking about stretching truth. I'm talking about legitimate truth. The fact is, no matter, I know some people will not agree, but that's what I believe in. There's no such thing as one truth. There are many truths. There's a truth which comes from many news outlets, and each side, it depends on the country you're broadcasting from, it depends on your age, sometimes it depends on your background, but there are many truths. And if you want to survive in this world, you have to provide one of the truths, and it has to be a different truth. Actually, that's what we're trying. We're trying to provide the truth which contradicts a lot of the things that some people believe. When you're building a brand, and that's very important for a young news outlet like ourselves, and many of you again represent outlets which have been in existence for 8, 10, 15 years, which is young compared to some of the famous news organizations. You have to build a brand, because a brand, of course, is a part of this trust thing, a part of this credibility thing. And sometimes you have to sacrifice some of your financial success for that. Like when we did this free video service, which was later so successfully copied by a friend from CCTV. We thought, okay, we will make it free. We could make some money on that, but instead of that, we decided to create a strong brand. And now we have more than 18,000 news outlets around the world using it. And we created our brand in a very short period of time. Another example of us capitalizing on this different truth is our new video agency. Because we thought at some point in time, people will see, okay, we have APTN and we have Reuters. Can we have something more? So we thought, okay, we will invest in creating a new video agency to give people more choice. It has been said previously that social networks and bloggers are our partners. I know in the world of everybody's political correctness, you cannot say adversary and, God forbid, to say enemy. You cannot say these words. I do not agree. Well, listen, the news, the real news as opposed to just news, is something we as the media people have been the product we've been creating for 5 centuries. The real news, the credible news. And then there come people, it's almost like forging your watch brand or your dress brand. People who come and claim they produce news, while in fact they produce their own opinions, unsubstantiated and unproven. And the so-called news they are unaccountable for. In a way, in a positive way, you can call that a mafia which is trying to break your business. There's a saying in Russia, you cannot defeat mafia, but you can become a head of it. Okay. And that's precisely what we're trying to do. We're trying to become, since we cannot defeat it, we're trying to head it. That's why we're using the social networks and those video sharing services so much and fairly successfully. If you take YouTube, for example, which was so successfully launched by Google, we used it and we treated it a little bit differently. What's that?
1 minute.
Vladimir, please. YouTube was not launched as the news source. It was launched as the video sharing source. And we turned it into a very successful news source. And we had more than 1 billion people watched our videos, videos on the YouTube. When you're talking about using the social networks, going cross-platform is very important. Because a lot of people are talking about going cross-platform. But the idea of cross-platform is that you have to deliver the same news to the audience using the language which this particular part of audience understand. And if you take Occupy Wall Street, and that's the news that RT has been the first to cover ever, we used all sort of communication means, including even application. If you go to our site, you can download Occupy Wall Street computer game. So that's what you do. Twitter is a special event, is a special thing. I do not like Twitter personally. I've been brought up in the understanding that you have to craft your words and you have to craft your sentences. But that doesn't say you don't have to use Twitter. Twitter has its own style, but again, you have to be able to master it. Again, it's the mafia which you cannot defeat, but which you can be ahead of. And now there comes the most important part. Very short one, but the most important one. We are in the world where information comes around the clock at any moment. It comes whenever you are, and it has enormous power. You can say that the world 3.0 is a world where news is omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. And many of you know that's the definition of God by St. Augustine. We live in the world, that's the definition of the world 3.0. It's the world where news have become God. And of course, you know you cannot reach the God. You can only try to approach the God. And that brings me to the magic figure. if you are thinking, there was a great thing about thinking 24/7, but today you cannot think. Your thinking cannot be 24/7, because then you're dead, you're losing the competition. May I have it? And you cannot even think 1447. Your mindset today should be 864007. That's the magic figure. That's how many seconds there are in a day. And that's the reality of the world 3.0. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexey.
Can you please play the video?
Asia, a region at the crossroads of history.
Tonight is the night that many have been waiting for.
It is transitioning, evolving. Through it all, one channel provides news and information to help you understand Asia. Channel NewsAsia has charted the triumphs and turbulence of Asia through many years of extensive and comprehensive coverage. Channel NewsAsia covers news events 24 hours a day. Delivered live from regional news bureaus located in all key cities across Asia.
The biggest anti-nuclear rally.
Stay informed with a powerful lineup of bulletins every hour, every day.
Be the first to understand.
No one understands business in Asia like we do. We bring business news with in-depth market reports and sharp analysis to help you keep ahead. Channel NewsAsia programs are extended on digital platforms, providing access to professionals on the go who want news and information anytime, anywhere. The new Asia is shaping the global economy, and one channel is committed to providing news and information to help you have a better, deeper understanding of Asia. Channel NewsAsia.
Thank you. Good afternoon, fellow colleagues. I think it's quite funny that we're in a room full of broadcasters and professionals who make videos every day, and I think that I can play that and impress you, because it's obviously not going to impress you. But it's a professional habit. We always think video tells the best story, so that's what we do. Listening to the conversations this morning, I found so much comfort in the commonality of the issues we all face. All of us already have to be on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, the web on all devices and OSs, Android, iApps, and so on the go, on mobile, on every device to stay relevant. More importantly, we must find new ways to interact and integrate our online content with our on-air content, right? And create a virtuous circle. We tried something when we did a documentary called 10 Days in Pyongyang, when correspondent Kente, who's in the audience here, went online while the documentary was telecast and interacted with audiences at home, chatting about what he saw, what he ate, whatever it was the social media guys wanted to find out, and created and built new fans. And we can't do these things as one-offs. Audience polling, for example, is something we have to do today. They have to be standard fare as we go ahead. I won't spend too much time talking about 3.0 challenges or about values, because this was very, very well covered in the first session. So indulge me and let me talk about the channel, where we are, how we got here today, and why we believe that we have a big role to tell others about Asia and to understand Asia. We are small. We come from a country with a population of only 5 million people. However, I've always believed that we cannot let our size diminish our ambitions, especially when we believe in what we do. So please forgive me as I talk about how our channel started. Because we are small in the midst of Southeast Asia, we've always had to look beyond our shores. Our survival as a country and as a channel depends on our surrounding neighborhood, our neighbors, both economic and security-wise, and the state of the global economy, and the state of security in the globe. So some of you may remember the 1997 Asian financial crisis. That was how it was dubbed by the global media then, dominated by Western-oriented originator organizations, not only CNN and BBC, of course, but Wall Street Journal, the FT, and so on. So terms like chaebols, crony capitalism, corruption, collusion, failure of dictatorship, these were thrown about and attributed for the crisis. The crisis really sparked when fund managers lost confidence in the Thai market and pulled money out. Investors fled not only from Thailand but the rest of the region. The rest is history. The worst financial crisis of our times then led to the resignation of President Suharto in Indonesia. Now, how is all this relevant? Well, we in Singapore and the rest of Southeast Asia were trying to keep our economies afloat, our people employed. But the hysteria in the global media did not help. Yes, there were problems in these economies. Yes, there were problems in our region, but we felt they were not properly contextualized. The end of the Suharto era was marked with patronage and corruption, but people in the West tend to forget that he did provide stability and created a nation out of tribes and lifted millions out of poverty. And there were countries then with sound banking systems. There were countries like Malaysia which refused to comply with IMF demands and decided to do their own thing. History has proven Dr. Mahathir right. So we felt we needed to get these stories out to the world. Hence, we fought to start Channel News Asia, to tell the story of what is happening in the region from the perspective of people living in the region and not from the perspective of people who take an external view, and organizations which may or may not have a stake in our future. Don't get me wrong, I believe in the journalistic values and integrity of the best global organizations, but I'm talking about context. Just last week, I was in Indonesia, and it was déjà vu. We were organizing a business conference, and Finance Minister Khatib Basri was coming to give a dinner address. However, the day before, fund managers pulled out from emerging markets. The rupiah fell. I switched on the internet and international business channel that morning to watch the news. And the tone was, it is disaster, it's the worst thing that has happened to the rupiah, etc., etc., etc. The anchor from the US asked, so with the impending airstrikes or the possibility of airstrikes in Syria, how are markets reacting? And it was, oh yes, the worst is yet to come. We are only seeing the tip of the iceberg. The tone was alarmist. It was not about what governments are doing to stabilize the currency. It was really about doom and gloom, and everybody's fleeing the markets. This is exactly what happened in 1997 and again in 2008, the global financial crisis. So I told my newsroom to make sure they reported hourly on the Asian markets with objectivity. Things were bad, but take a long-term view. Speak to businessmen in the room, speak to businessmen operating in Indonesia and in Singapore and the rest of the region, and talk about what is really going on, and ask questions about what do you do with the rupiah? How do you invest now? What do you do? That is what I mean about telling the stories of Asia and understanding with context. Channel News Asia relaunched this year as a 24-hour news channel, live round the clock. You see, we are small. Many of you have been doing 24-hour news for many, many years. To us, it was a huge change. It was a huge challenge. We had to hire more people. We had to make people do more. We had to scale up quickly. Our vision is to understand Asia, engender understanding amongst Asian countries, and understanding of Asia from people outside of Asia, and of course also to give Asia a platform to the world. We are not fully scoped out in the Middle East or in other parts of Asia, but in Southeast Asia and East Asia, I think we are quite well covered. We are now seen in 47 million households and hotel rooms across Asia. We have correspondents in the major cities across Asia. This is, of course, peanuts compared with what those of you headquartered in Russia, Doha, London, Atlanta, Japan, and China face, but that's why we understand the problems faced by smaller countries like ourselves. ABU members in Nepal, Myanmar, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, smaller countries whose focus is really about what is happening which is relevant to them. So help us bring your stories to the rest of Asia. Help us help you create better knowledge of the business, economy, and societies here, and join us in these conversations. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm looking at a lot of very tired people, so I want to make this as painless as possible. And I think the sooner we get onto the discussion, the better, and then you can all take part and hopefully ask a lot of questions. But I do have a few things that I want to talk about first, because I really love this topic. This topic is at the centre of what I aim to achieve every day, and that is in giving a voice to more people in Asia and the Pacific. And there are lots of ways that we are trying to do that in this new digital age, using YouTube, using Twitter. And one of them is a new program that we've just launched, a social media TV format program for the under 35s that aims to promote regional conversations on issues of common interest. The program is called Talk About It, which we present as a hashtag, and we have a clip from one of the previews to play now.
Hi guys, we're launching a new program and we'd love for you to be a part of the show. Want to be on TV? Well, get ready to answer some tough questions.
We're doing a discussion about whether Australia is a racially tolerant country or not. What do you think?
I never have any bad experience in Australia.
If that's how they feel, you know, I'm not going to go and bash them about it.
If you get to know somebody, like on a personal level, it's usually not the case.
Who can you call Australian?
I think we live in a really well-integrated multicultural society.
I don't know, maybe on the outside you guys don't really say it out, but when you get drunk, that's when your true feelings come out.
Is racism an issue in your community? Is it a global issue?
I'm sure we can all comfortably agree that no one in this country has a scarier drinking problem than white people.
Or is it all just a laughing matter? Tell us what you think on Facebook, or better yet, upload a 30-second video on YouTube and you could be a part of the program.
So that's Talk About It with Delhi Rani, and with that program, the way we choose the topics is we look at what's happening on social media. We use trend mapping. That particular angle came up from the fact a report was done on Google that if you type in "is Australia," the thing that immediately comes up is Australia racist? And so that was the prompt for choosing that subject. We've also done issues including sex education in Singapore, which was something that there was a few videos on YouTube that were of interest, on gay marriage in the region, on issues. The Burqa Avenger animation video in Pakistan provoked a lot of discussion. The rape in India was something too, that there was a lot of social media traffic. And in each country we're inviting people to upload video, or we go out and we shoot vox pops, or they are making comments on Facebook and we feed that into the program. There are a couple of other initiatives too. As you may be aware, Australia has a national election this Saturday, and the ABC has been involved in a project called Vote Compass, which is an online tool where everyone is invited to go on and to answer a series of policy questions. And people's responses are matched against the official policy agendas of the major parties. And at the end of it, they get an assessment of whether their views match what they think their political leanings are. Now, this was an idea that we borrowed from CBC in Canada, so all credit to the Canadians for coming up with it. And then we tweaked it for an Australian audience in making sure that we had people from the major universities involved in drafting the questions, and that we had representatives of the major parties involved, so there were no claims of ABC bias, because that's something we're quite sensitive about. This was a project where we were aiming for about 600,000 participants, and we've gone to 1.1 million. So it's been far more popular than we had expected. And the real jewel for us in this exercise is that it has been so popular with an under 40 audience, which is an audience that we acknowledge we have a bit of a problem with. It's something we have to work very hard at the ABC to tap into that audience. And as we have heard in some of the other sessions and from the KBS research, surprise, surprise, they really did want to engage on politics. So that's another online tool where we've also built content around the findings that were gained in doing that online research. And that has led to a number of stories where we've been breaking stories in highlighting problems in the way policy has been explained, in highlighting some of the concerns in individual marginal electorates. In India recently, we were involved with a company called Alexey in asking young people the values that they were looking for in leaders. So again, it's tapping into what is happening on social media, teaming up with, in this case, a very young Australian company which has been incredibly innovative, but focusing on India and saying, if I were a netter, if I were a leader, what were the values that I would be looking for? And this has been a tremendously interesting exercise. In India, as you may be aware, there is a huge gap between the demographic of the country and the demographic of the political leaders. And so in explaining some of the impact of that on policy and the way in which politicians present their messages, we engaged in this exercise. And while the response wasn't as big as we would have liked, it was encouraging because of the level of participation of those who did come online and join us. One of the other things that we are doing as we try to ramp up the number of voices is in putting more content in language. And we are launching apps in Mandarin and in Indonesian and looking to extend our language services. So they're just some of the things we are doing in trying to get more voices from across Asia and the Pacific into our content. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Deborah. And good luck for your election Saturday. I don't put a difficult question to you that what is your expectation on the election on Saturday, but don't worry, I don't ask that question to you. So you have heard the views from different perspectives in Japan, in China, in Korea, Russia, Singapore and Australia. The floor is open to you. Also, we will go through the questions we received from Twitter. We've got about 25 minutes and I would like to request everybody to participate in this discussion. So, can I see hands? Yes. Okay. Egypt. So, yeah. Can you introduce yourself, please? And be very brief and to the point, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is from Arab and Islamic countries. Salute. I am Ali Mubarak from Egypt, from AR2U. AR2U is a public service. It consists of 12 sectors. One of the most important is news sector. I am the chief of Nile News channel and also news anchor in the same channel.
Thank you.
As you know, there is great events in the Arab area or in the Arab world in the last years. So we ought to deal with social sites or social media. Also, because this event is many and rapid and sophisticated, your reporters cannot cover all these events in the same time.
Okay.
So there is a problem from this.
Okay.
How far can you depend on or trust the social media and the news? This is a problem for us.
Okay.
Also, the second...
Perhaps we will stick with one question so that we can
yes,
offer
that's
the floor.
enough.
So the question is clear. One of the colleagues may be later.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to take more questions first or comments and then come back. Sumchai from Thailand, Thailand Public Service Broadcasting.
Somchai Suwanban from the Thai Public Service. The topic we discussed this afternoon is about the amplifying Asia Pacific voices. I just heard Alexey talking about quality and trust. And my question was, I'm wondering that the state sponsor or state finance media organization, how could they really amplify the people's voice?
Okay. Please take note. too many hands, yeah. Perhaps we go to you first, SLRC, yeah. Good that everybody wants to speak.
Yes,
Please be brief.
I'm Prasad from Sri Lanka. Actually, I would like to mention about the comment that Debra mentioned about the Asian financial crisis and Alexey about the truth. That's one problem that countries face. You know, the selectivity of reporting and the real truth is somewhere else, as Alex said, and there is some framework of reporting on some countries and some issues. So my question is, what's your comment about how do the media personnel face this situation, and how we make the justice for our communities by making the correct reporting? So floor is open for everybody.
Okay. Can I refer to panelists to respond? Deborah?
To the last
Yep,
one?
to the last one.
It is a very difficult issue, and I think any organisation can be accused of selective lineups from time to time. The key is to tap into a range of sources, both formal media sources and informal sources, and now social media sources. It's like any story of having that broad range of contacts and appreciating the context in which information is being received.
Thank you. Deborah, you want to comment on the other question, not the same question? To just anyone? Subchai? Yeah.
Okay, there were quite a number. There was one about selectiveness, right? And well, similarly, state media, how do you amplify Asia-Pacific voices? I think all of us have organizations which come from a certain place and which reach out to a certain number of people. As the first panel said, you need to know who your audience or your customer is. You are serving an audience, and relevancy is important. And relevancy can only come with an understanding of what your audience wants and of the region. I agree with Deborah that you need networks, you need